If you've been anywhere near crypto gaming, you've heard of Big Time. Big Time is an MMO that, even though it's still in pre alpha, has already been playable in early forms for a couple of years now. And last year, they did a notorious marketing onboarding campaign, one which caused me a lot of frustration at the time for no real reason, where they were basically making every single person a community ambassador. So Big Time really got started, at least in the content creator community, by offering like 1,000 people to be community ambassadors, and then you should invite your friends to be a community ambassador. They can also get in. We'll give you codes to give away. We'll feature you, and they just like did this really grassroots one-on-one marketing strategy. At the time, I was on this wave of like, you gotta pay creators for everything. Don't do any free promo. So I was kind of like salty, but in retrospect, I was maybe getting it wrong. The truth is, it was a very cool campaign that really included everyone in Web3, many of whom didn't have a lot of content, a lot of games to play. And so Big Time carved out a nice little niche as the most playable Web3 MMO. I mean, there are other projects, right? You've got Mirandus, you've got Star Atlas, I believe, and quite a few others. My mind already starts going blank. What's the other one? Ember Sword? My mind starts going blank because, to be honest, when people tell me about MMOs in early access that'll be ready in 3, 4, 5 years, my mind just kind of turns off. I'm not that interested. They're so far away. So this is my 30-hour review of Big Time. I've played the game for about 30 hours now. Let's jump into the good, the bad, and the ugly. Do I actually like the game? The good. It's an actual playable Web3 MMO. Because again, there's been a lot of projects teasing towards eventual gameplay, selling a lot of expensive things, and nothing is playable. Those games drive me crazy. So it's nice that this one is playable now. You can actually see if you go on Twitch. I mean, I did this last time. Let's do it again. If I pull up the Twitch page, it's going to be 953 viewers on the Big Time category right now. So there's lots of people hanging out. Now, there's got to be some amount of bots with all the code giveaways, but I'm guessing at least 50, 60, 70% of these are probably legit. I have talked to a lot of people in the chat, people who I hadn't seen before, first time chatters, and some of them are just, hello sir, invite please, which we'll kind of get into that later, the sort of like, hello sir, can I have an invite vibe. But most people actually were pretty responsive. I'd be like, hey, can you hear what I'm saying? Like, are you actually a person or are you a bot? Username 725. And they'd be like, yeah, actually I am a person, I can hear you. And I'd be like, okay, just checking, because sometimes they're literally bots, or like people will mute your stream and just kind of ask for invites and they don't even hear what you're saying. So there's some amount of, significant amount of it seems to be real people based on my 30 hours of playing and grinding. Anyway, not only is it playable, but the group rating is actually super fun. You get in a group with 6 people, including yourself, and you don't need a full 6. You could have 3, 4, 5. You could even try to solo dolo the dungeons, although it's not going to be a good time. I don't recommend trying to solo dolo. So you end up in a group, hopefully of like 5 or 6 people. You go into a portal and you just get assaulted by so many mobs, spiders and floating monsters and giant mecha tanks and humanoid creatures and all these things just going at you, long distance attackers, long distance healers, short distance tanks, and there's all kinds of stuff. The mob variety is very good. The dungeon layouts are pretty good, and there's actually a pretty good amount of variety between like lower level dungeons and then getting into mid game dungeons, and you can kind of feel the difficulty rising. Even relative, like if you're leveled up for it, it still feels a little harder than like when you were leveled up for the early game. So the difficulty curve is pretty good, and it just feels like there's more things attacking you, bigger things attacking you, more difficult situations as you go through the levels, at least up until level 27, which is where my character currently is. After 30 hours, it's actually a little bit slower of a leveling curve than I expected. There is some dead time when you're like putting together your group, which is actually one of the things that's kind of annoying, is group finding. but we will get to that in a minute. One more thing I want to say that's really good is early game and early mid game itemization feels really good. It feels like when I run a dungeon, every couple of runs, every hour or two, I get some kind of item that really improves my build. Like every hour or two, it's just like, oh, this has great stats. I can swap it in. I'm going to replace my gloves with these better gloves. Or, oh, I got a bag with more space. Now I can carry more loot out of the dungeon. Or, I improved my weapon at one point and I made like a big improvement after quite a while of not finding anything. And my damage practically doubled with one upgrade. I was like, yes, let's go. So the itemization and the pace of upgrades feels really good. I think that's really important for an MMO. I'm going to sip my coffee. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. You must enjoy the video. Okay. Areas of improvement. I don't want to let this get too rambly, so let's keep going. Areas of improvement. Your first character is always bad because of how the game is designed. So you get an item called a pocket watch, and your pocket watch is the thing that your character is contained within. And you'll find other pocket watches later. So I have a Time Warrior, which is one of the classes, and my starter Time Warrior has like no buffs. But I could find a Time Warrior pocket watch that has plus 100 strength later on. If I want to use that watch, I have to start that watch, which is a separate character, at level 1 and re-level from the beginning, but the new character has plus 100 strength. It basically means your second character is the first one that actually has a chance to be good, and I don't like that. I do not like how my first character is inherently worse, and I basically need to start over and do that sort of like mid-character crisis of like, I don't want to be a Time Warrior, I want to be a Quantum Fixer, and like switch. I don't like having that kind of ingrained into the game. I'd like the idea that my first character would have the chance to be as strong as anything else, just because like I've already spent 30 hours grinding to level 27. I believe the max level is 60. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. So that's like, levels get slower as you go. It seems like it's going to be a long time just to level one character. It feels like a bit much that on top of that, my first character is automatically less buffed and just a little weaker compared to other characters at its level. I don't love that. That's something I think that could be changed or improved somehow. Another big issue, one of the more glaring issues, probably should have said this first, is group finding. It's actually quite difficult to find a group. You can't really do it in the game. You can try to use chats and say looking for a group or looking for people, but it's very inconsistent. The servers are laggy. The chat doesn't always show up properly. And so you pretty much have to use Twitch and Discord as your group finding mechanism, which is okay, but this game would be so much more addicting and even more engaging if you could just queue up for a dungeon and it would automatically match you with people around your level. So you are an adequate level for the level 20 to 25 dungeons, you queue up, and then you have one or two people, three people, whatever, and it matches you with other people who are queued up, and then you get into the run together, and you can just get a new group whenever you want, like on command. That would be a lot better, I think. Having no way to easily find a group makes it very slow to start your play session. There have been some streams where I start up the game, start up the stream, and it's a couple hours just trying to get the group together, and then we're grinding for a long time. But that first couple hours is tough, and if you're not, able to kind of like ping your server and have people ready to go, if you're just like some random dude trying to play with no one else to group with, it's not good. Anyone who ever is trying to play this game solo is basically playing it wrong, and the game needs to help them not even be tempted to do that. Which gets to my biggest point of the thing I would change the most in this game is the fundamental lack of variety and the lack of other gameplay modes. There's no solo quests, there's no dungeons that are designed for solo play. There's nothing you can do outside of a group, so you need a group. And even if you have 2 or 3 people, it's not enough because you get better loot drops. Like your odds of drops are much better as your group gets bigger. The whole thing is so tuned in to the group experience that it kind of feels like it needs to show some love to the other side. Like, what if you just want to play for half an hour or an hour by yourself in between this and that? Like, there's nothing you can really do other than crafting, maybe. So I think that's a big issue. There's also no PvP, and that's another thing. Pretty much, a lot of people, one of the first things they're going to ask, does this game have PvP? The answer is no. That would be a big one to add as well, because then if you're tired of running dungeons, which is fun, but then, 4 or 5 hours goes by. It's kind of like, all right, I've done this over and over. Like, you need something else to do. There's also no RuneScape style skills, so like farming your tomatoes and doing your herb lore and your archery and making arrows and going from level 1 to 2 to 3. Like there's just nothing other than running dungeons and updating your build, which is a little bit just like repetitive after a while. At first, it's really cool, but it does eventually get repetitive. If an MMO wants to drive hundreds of hours of gameplay and beyond, I think it's going to need more variety. I also don't like how some of the gameplay is locked behind the NFTs. Like, you can't get any big time tokens unless you have a Time Warden, but Time Wardens are super expensive, like hundreds of dollars. And in general, it's just a play to earn thing. Like, it'd be so nice if someone could play a little bit and make a few bucks and just have that fun experience of getting the tokens and feeling like, yeah, I'm earning rewards. But because enough people are going to min-max and sweatlord the play to earn, there's really no way for someone like me who's just having fun leveling up and grinding to get like a few tokens here or there. It's like all or nothing. You're either investing in all these expensive NFTs to try to get your big time tokens, or you're kind of just opting out. Personally, I've opted out. I think the prices of everything over the days after preseason launch have been very, very high. I think it's been very, very risky to buy any of that stuff. So I have just been free to play. That's okay. I don't really need big time tokens. Like, it'd just be nice if you could just play and have a few tokens drop, but it's like, it's got to be this very specific system to stop people from exploiting it. And it ends up kind of requiring an investment in order to access much of that. I did get one NFT drop though, which is apparently worth like $50 or more. So I mean, I did actually get a drop with some financial value, which is cool. It just feels kind of cool to be like, yeah, I got something, I own it, I could sell it. I haven't sold it, I haven't even listed it, but it's kind of cool. I put it in my previous big time video. Anyway, overall, the game is really fun. I've really enjoyed my first 30 hours, and it also made for some good streams. I do feel like it's getting a little bit repetitive for me, so I'm definitely going to probably, switch from my 8-hour grinds to more of like the variety again, play some Gods Unchained, and then do a few hours of big time. But I definitely do intend to continue playing, and I'm fairly optimistic for the game's future, especially if they can add a lot of content and really keep developing it. My biggest fear is that if the game feels the same as it is today in a year, I think that's going to be a real problem. We need to see substantial improvements. Like every few months, we need to see big content added because of how early the game is. It feels like the amount of people playing the game is reaching that point where they have to start really taking content releases seriously. My biggest fear is the game could go stale if it doesn't expand and just keep adding more content, including other areas beyond just these one flavor of group raids. That's my biggest worry for the game, but the biggest opportunity if they do add more features, more content, PvP, some solo quests, any of that, like the game could be really, really fun. And this could be that first MMO that gets it right with NFTs and crypto. And who knows, it could have a great future ahead. So super excited for big time. Gets me excited for the other MMOs that could one day launch as well. There's definitely something here with the combination of Web3 and MMOs. Now that I can see it with big time, it just makes it all the more real. So what do you think? Are you enjoying big time? Let me know in the comments. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What would you rate it? I'm doing my needle drop impression, that music YouTuber. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Flux signing out.